Alright, fans of music, welcome back. It is Dave, the Real Music Observer, observing real music in real time for real people just like you right there, and yours truly right here. So, this online YouTube thing going on between Ritchie Blackmore and Joe Satriani, very interesting, and I kind of sided with Ritchie Blackmore on this, even though I don't play guitar. Yes, I don't play it for a living. And I sided with Ritchie because I think there's an element to what he's saying about reaching for notes, and if you're never screwing up, I don't know. I know the other side of the equation is, well, if you're screwing up, then it shows that you're not a good guitarist. And you could say, well, painting a picture sometimes, you might throw a few errant brush strokes, but it doesn't mean you can't throw some others in a different direction to correct or make what you did before even better. So that's the way I see it. And the argument, by the way, starts to devolve. Hey, Ritchie said that he liked Jimi Hendrix, and he thought Hendrix every once in a while messed up, and was searching for a note and so forth. And people are then going after Hendrix, which I'd rather listen to Jimi Hendrix play guitar than pretty much anybody. I like Neil Schon. I like Carlos Santana. By the way, all those guys are kind of soulful, improvisational, fusion-oriented. They can play really fast, but they don't necessarily play a sterile, up and down the fretboard kind of style, and that is what Ritchie was alluding to. Plus, you're dealing with a guy here who I think has composed the most iconic riff in rock history. When kids learn guitar, they typically try to learn Smoke on the Water because it just sounds so cool. And then, you may say, well, that's, Ritchie's claim to fame, and he's, it's his 15 minutes of fame and so forth. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think that whole Deep Purple Mach 2 lineup and those albums they created with Ritchie are iconic and really have stood the test of time in a way that a lot of other bands wish they could. And you could look at all the real technical guitar players that have come since. Eddie Van Halen, of course, comes to mind, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani. These guys are all very precise, very interesting shredders, and they're inventive and they're creative, but I think it comes down to style and soul. I think there's a lot more soul in a guy like Ritchie Blackmore and obviously Jimi Hendrix than these guitar players that have come along since. Vernon Reid, I think, from Living Colour, is just an amazing guitar player. He just doesn't get a lot of press or props. Plus, that band again fell victim to the grunge movement, and there's a band, by the way, that wasn't just stereotypical 80s hair metal. That was a real inventive, creative, soulful, different band, and just shows you what happened to the music industry. But getting back to the topic at hand, if your argument then goes down the road where you're now having to kind of throw Jimi Hendrix under the bus, then I think your argument is weak. And I think at a certain point you have to say, you know what, stylistically, these guitar players are different, but I prefer X, and this is why I prefer X, rather than just kind of saying, well, this style is inherently better than the other style because the other style is sloppy, and you never know, you might get a note that's not played correctly or has to be sort of atoned for, literally. And it's just bizarre. I think these people need to go back and listen to Hendrix. And the problem is today's music scene Jimmy, other than an occasional spin like Foxy Lady or something, you're not going to hear some of the just incredible, more brilliant pieces of music that the guy composed, or if he didn't compose, he reinterpreted and just gave it his own flair. And this is something that I think is happening because, again, it's selective memory loss. People really need to focus on how good Jimi Hendrix is rather than saying, well, he was a sloppy guitar player. Yeah, he was so sloppy, he pretty much reinvented how the guitar is played, and really nobody has had the same impact since. It's one area, by the way, I agree with all the snobby critics on. It's hard to be better than Jimi Hendrix. You may have a favorite guitar player that you like better stylistically. You may not dig Jimmy's voice, or you may not dig all the material that he wrote or recorded, but guess what? It's an undeniable truth that Jimi Hendrix is likely the most influential guitar player who ever walked on planet Earth. And he's very much missed because who knows what kind of work he would have done in the 70s and 80s and beyond. We just will never know. But I know for sure that Jimi Hendrix, I'd rather listen to Jimi Hendrix than Joe Satriani or Steve Vai. Eddie Van Halen, I mean, yeah, overall, I'd rather listen to him. If I had to take something to a desert island, it would be Hendrix, because it's like a time capsule. It's like, bringing all of the Picassos with you. And, the other guys have done some great work, but Hendrix, to me, is still the best. And any argument that throws him under the bus because of his tone, or because they think he's a little sloppy, I don't know, it's a tough argument to make when you're talking about James Marshall Hendrix. All right, done. Be back soon. See ya.